Can you just give us a sort of scouting report on how that new quarterback looks and what changes and how you defend him?
They run their offense. I mean, he's the same guy as Braxton Miller, just doesn't have the experience. Same kind of athlete, live arm, big kid. Braxton Miller and this kid, they're probably the closest thing we played against a guy these calibers is like a Josh Nesbitt or somebody like that. He's a 6'1", 225-pound kid that can run. He's physical. He's got great speed, not good speed. He can break tackles. He has a live arm. And, they want to run it and run it and run it and take some shots. Even though they're not Georgia Tech, they're a unique offense. And, they just do it. They execute and do it very well. But I don't see them doing a whole lot different than what they've done before. I mean, it's I'm sure maybe they've got certain things cut down, but they're going to keep adding every week. So, I'm sure we're going to see a little bit more of what we, saw and broke down over the winter and the summer. And that's what we're expecting. We're not expecting to see anything different. We're expecting to see, what Ohio State runs and, what they do.
You called it unique. You've never played an Urban Meyer team before?
No, we haven't.
Anyone for any?
We played. It's similar to Clemson. It's those kind of things like that, teams like that. But these guys probably run a little bit more speed sweeps and things of that nature, which is kind of like the jet sweep out of Georgia Tech. There's different ways that they block it and different. It's just different rules for us and what we're going to try to do. They're just they've got speed, at the skilled position, and they get you out in space. They rushed for 308 yards a game last year. You think of all that spread stuff, but they had a tailback that rushed for about 1,600 or 1,700 yards. The quarterback rushed for almost 1,300 yards. They've got a couple receivers right now that are kind of Percy Harvin type guys that they're slash receivers slash running backs, So you've got to have a, you got to know where those guys are and have a plan for what they're trying to do and different things like that. So,
how does it affect the choice to go with the nickel or to go with the whip on the field in terms of what they do offensively?
It's just matchups.
Yeah.
They're an 11 personnel team, when it's all said and done. Even though that one guy's a back, he's a receiver. So we want to we're going to probably play, if it's 11 personnel, we're going to just do what we do. If it's a 2-back or 2 tight end, we're going to do what we do. That's not going to change. So it has nothing to do with whips it's about matchups. And that's what the nickel does.
It sounds like from everything you've said, scheme-wise, it's kind of similar. Does the fact that he doesn't have much experience change anything in your approach?
No, not at all. Not at all. They're going to run their offense. They're going to run what they do. They're not going to change. We're not going to change what we're planning on doing. So that's kind of it.
Is there an added benefit though to pressuring him, because it seemed like when they
it's they're a team right now on 3rd and 5 or less. They're going to run the ball. It's when do you pick your poison to do it? You know what I mean? So we've got our game plan. We're going to run our game plan. That's it. So we're going to have some things hopefully built in, and hopefully we can. Get some pressure. I hope we can do it with, 4 men or 3 men or, 5 men, whatever we're going to do. Just what we do. I'm not going to tell you guys what we're doing. So anyway, I'm just telling you.
It's not often you go up against a coach and a system you've never faced or never even
that's that's a challenge, and it's exciting, and they've done a great job. The guy's been good at wherever he's been, at Utah and been at Florida and Bowling Green, and now he's at, Ohio State. And they've got, at each place he's had a dynamic quarterback. And, they lost their dynamic guy, but this guy's not far behind. He's played 1 game under his belt. But he's the same guy, man. He's Braxton Miller as a redshirt freshman. I just want you guys to know that's who he is, okay? So.
Do you pick Scott's brain at all this week because he
we've got a couple things. Yeah, he might have tried to help us on certain things about how he wants to try to attack this or that. But yeah, they're trying to do some things on their side. We'll share some ideas if we need to.
You had 2 new linebackers in that game. How do you think they played against William & Mary, and how comfortable are you going forward?
I thought Chase Williams played very, very well. Obviously he had a big play. Dion was he was okay. Didn't get a chance to play the younger guys or the Matua Pawaka or McKinnon. McKinnon was kind of banged up. Just didn't feel comfortable, and we had a couple sudden change situations early in the game, so, just kept with the guys that were kind of in the flow of the game. Matua Puaka came in and did a nice job, but during the week of practice, he was all over the place. He went back to like he was in the spring, which he had a great fall camp, and I told him that. And, that's the information I get. I'm not going to play a guy that's going to go out there and short circuit on me, So, I mean, it's, we got, it's game time. I'm not going to go out there and it's not a preseason game, so.
Is Ronnie ready, or is DiNardo still the guy that would go?
Well, Ronnie just hadn't practiced. That's the bottom line. I mean, you can't play if you can't practice. And that's all, that's it. DiNardo's stepped up, and, he's done a hell of a job. He's a senior. He knows his strengths. He knows his weaknesses. And, he's going to play to his strengths, and play for the football team. And, he's a senior and has done a hell of a job. Ronnie's a good player. He's just got to get back in practice. And, he hasn't played for, in a long time. So, but he hasn't been practicing either. So, we're not going to play a guy just because he's got some ability. He needs to get out there and show he can perform and stay healthy and all those things.